Welcome to NatChat. My name is BonnieHutt, and today our guest is StewartCoffee, who has had an incredible journey with working with the earth and horticulture, has a background in horticulture, and used to work as an independent researcher in the field of health and nutrition, and worked as a consultant for an agricultural consulting firm, and has discovered the important relationship between soil, stomach and spirit. And he has also healed himself from chronic fatigue. So Stewart, could you just tell us how you started your journey?
Yeah, sure. How are you, Bonnie?
Yeah, excellent.
Well, I guess my connection for me with my journey into, I suppose, the realm of nature, getting connected back to that which I believe we are, and that is that we are a very integral part of nature. And I have a love for things that grow. I have a love for the beauty of nature and all things in it. And I guess a lot of that probably started from the upbringing that I had with, my father used to take myself and my brothers and my mother, we'd all go away, and the pet dog. We'd go camping up the bush. Back in the days when you didn't have to travel as far to get away off the beaten track. And
so you started from an early age?
Yeah, and that shaped who I am, and the questions that I pose for myself as to wanting to know why things are or how they work, and the relationship between myself and all things, or nature. And I guess my health being, everybody's health is an integral part of what's really going on. I mean, if it's not the nature of the soil, it's the nature of what's going on inside us, whether that be on a biological level or a spiritual level. It's understanding what's going on and becoming consciously aware. And for me, nature has always been that reference point for me to sit in stillness and find the right questions.
So you mentioned earlier that you started off as a child having been given a little patch of land to look after. Just tell us how that impacted on your life. And because I mean, there's a lot of children, sitting in front of televisions these days and Nintendo. Yeah. Just tell us about your experiences about being given that opportunity.
Okay. Yeah. When I was about 4 years old, we lived on the side of a steep. It was a hilly block of dirt, and it was pretty dry. It was a pretty dry part. There was only dirt roads, and my father had sort of terraced it and made usable space out of it. And my mother, one time, she's a very outdoors type person, always in the garden, and she pulled me aside and said, Stewart, I'm going to let you make your own garden. So you can pick a spot and we'll make that yours, and you can plant whatever you want. And so my very limited knowledge of plant varieties and whatever, I knew that violets were purple and I liked that colour, and so I said to my mum, I want to plant some violets and I'll have some strawberries. So the next day she brought me home some violets and some strawberries, and she helped me plant them out. And that was very rewarding, and for me to be given that opportunity and that little plot that I could manage, and that's my
that you were responsible
space
for as a child.
Yeah, so that got me interested in watching the process of life through being responsible for looking after some beautiful little plants, and getting the joy out of knowing that, hey, they're responding to what I'm providing for them, giving,
Watching life grow.
Yeah.
Just briefly, when you worked as a consultant with the soil for the company, yeah, can you just share us just briefly some of your experiences you had with that, yeah, and what you found with the soil? Okay,
primarily what my job was, I got picked up by an organic fertiliser products company that used to import a lot of humic and fulvic acid. In fact, the company that I did work for was the company that first bought humic and fulvic acids, which at the time little was known about that. Now I think just about every agronomist in Australia knows the importance of fulvic acid, made from brown coal peat. It's sort of like the wonder humus workhorse molecule of the soil, much needed. But my job was basically going around, just cold calling, introducing myself to farmers, which led me on a lot of adventures, and building a rapport with them, and asking them to show me over what they were doing, and perhaps there might be something we could do to help if they had any problems. And so we used to do quite extensive soil testing using the Albrecht McHale soil balancing method, which is considered the industry standard for soil testing. And yeah, we used to find, for me, that was quite interesting when you collaborate the information from the results of the laboratory. You could see what was going on in the soil to do with the nutrient balance. And many of these, most of the commercial farming soils are in some state of siege. It's under siege because they're having a lot of high energy nutrients that are, a lot of them are not harmonious to the soil. In fact, a lot of them destroy the microflora of the soil. So,
because of course that's all relevant to everyone sitting here, because we all eat the food from these farms.
Well, I mean, yeah. So, well, this is where, because of my interest, not only my involvement with horticulture and the soil, but to do with health and
the relationship between everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As I gained more knowledge, I realised that everything is connected, from the soil to what is being produced from that soil and what's happening below the soil. And I'm not just talking nutrients, I'm also talking about the soil food web, as Elaine Ingham refers to it, which is all the living organisms. For example, what most people wouldn't know is that in just 1 teaspoon or a gram of soil there can be more microbes than people on this planet. And there are hundreds of different species, and they all have a function. And equally, human health, we are a highly biological system. For example, in the stomach we have between 1.5 and 2 kilograms of intestinal flora or microbes, of which there's over 400 species, and they perform a function. And what's going on in there is the result of what we put into our mouth, and that
affects how we feel.
It affects a whole number of things to do with neurochemistry, all manner of things to do with human health and our feeling of well-being, because it works on a holistic system, yeah,
which affects everything. Okay, well, that's very interesting, Stewart. We're going to be talking about it again just after the break, so keep tuned.